I'm here at Filament Restaurant in Deep Ellum with chef owner Matt McCallister and executive chef Cody Sharp. And I recently reviewed Filament, and I was wondering if either of you guys would like to respond to the review.
It was very nerve-wracking. I think it was there was a lot of high expectations here, and I feel like we've all been working, 16, 17-hour days every day since we opened to try and provide the best dining experience, and I personally felt like the review reflected that. I'm glad that she had a good time. So, that's all I really have to say about it. I mean, it definitely puts a lot of pressure on us now to exceed that expectation and push a little harder and push a little further. So.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because sometimes I have the impression that a restaurant will be reviewed and then they kind of let it all go, and I'll come back in a couple months and it's like, it just doesn't even feel like the same restaurant.
We definitely don't want to do that. I mean, that was the conversation that Matt and I had when the review came out, and it was just like, okay, now how do we make it better? How do we push it a little further? How do we, we have the benefit of not really having limitations here. We try to stay within a certain realm of ideas and how we do things, but realistically, I mean, we can do kind of whatever we want. So, it's just time to turn the knob a little bit, figure out what the next step is, and how to just make it better. So.
And Chef, did you have something?
No, I mean, I was talking with Cody before the review was coming out or whatever, and I'm always really pessimistic, and so I was like, it's going to be 3 stars, and we'll work a lot harder on it. We'll get it up there. And so then when I saw that we got 4 stars, I was just like, I told Cody, I was like, I don't think it's 4 stars, but that's just my own personal, like, I was like, there's always things. And plus with me, it's like anytime I go into, like, even with FT, it's like all I do is go and look for everything wrong in the kitchen. So it's like I'll find everything that's wrong, whether the guests will understand that or not. So I'm just hard on myself. So that's just me.
Yeah. So do you think there's any downside to having, I mean, if you're saying you expected it to be 3 stars, is there any, I feel like there's a little bit of buzz out there on social media, like there's this sense like, oh, Matt actually wanted 3 stars. Is there anything to that, or?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like with FT, we got 4 stars, and then, I don't know. To me, like 4 stars for Filament's about, I think, to me, the best that you can get out of this restaurant. I don't know if it's ever going to get to the 5-star status or level. FT, we at least have that opportunity, and we opened with 4, and then, it gave me a goal to work towards. But kind of when I talked with Cody, I said, well, now we really need to work towards making sure that it stays at like a 4-star mentality, because I don't feel it's there. But that's just me. So
what are some of the things that you feel need to be improved? Or?
Just tweaks, like eating different, like, I'll come in here a lot and eat, and then I'll just kind of give him my critiques. Like, it's like, maybe we should be toasting this bread as opposed to just slicing it and putting something hot on it. Like, things that are just, it's going to eat better this way. Think about this. This has too much acid. Lower the acid back. It's the same stuff I do at FT all the time. So it's just a constant. Kitchens, they're run by people. So human error is always like an equation. And it's like, you tell somebody to put something here, and then, 2 months later it's over here. So you just have to constantly tell them to put it back here all the time, and it never stops.
Yeah. So, Cody, what is it like for you to work for a chef who's, that perfectionist? I mean, do you think he's more, is he, I know a lot of chefs are really perfectionistic, but do you think Matt is kind of on the higher end of that?
I think he definitely takes it to another level sometimes. But I've worked for Matt off and on for 7 years, so it's always been there.
And where did you work together before?
Oh man, Campo, Stephen Piles.
That's where the cauliflower gratin came from.
Where the cauliflower gratin came from.
Where the what came from?
The cauliflower gratin that came from Campo, but he elevated it by doing botarga and it's
constant tweaking. I'm a lot. Him and I talk a lot about old dishes and ideas that were written down months ago, year ago, things that I've worked on years ago, and just I like going back to old things and revisiting them and going, okay, well, like this was good then, or this wasn't good then. How do I make it better? How can I, kind of take it to the a different level. But it's like working with Matt is one of those things where I think all chefs are perfectionists deep down, but when you have somebody that you personally respect and that you look up to as a mentor, and you have that person that's constantly pushing you because they expect you to be as good, if not technically better than them. I don't know if that'll ever be the case, but it's always been one of those things where it was expected that there's never a point where you become complacent or where you have the idea that you've hit a pinnacle point where if you're always telling yourself that it could be better. I was the same way when I was sitting there, the night before the review came out. I sat there and I was like, it'll be 3 stars, and I had kind of put that in my head so that I had something to continue to push towards. So now for me, it's all about maintaining that expectation of what people are going to come in here and expect to get. So it's good. It's motivation. So.
And in terms of like creating the dishes, are you mostly creating them, or do you really collaborate on them, or a little of both, or
a little both? I mean, I gave him a lot of free reign with stuff. I've been watching Cody for a long time, ever since he was working in the pastry department at Stephen Pyle's when I was the chef there. So I've always admired his creativity, and I think our styles of cooking have pretty decent similarities. And we kind of think about dishes and flavor profiles fairly similar. So I kind of give him enough rope to hang himself, and then I'll kind of, add my tweaks. But it's like, to me, it's like I didn't want to come in here from the beginning and dictate everything that all the cooks or chefs are collaborating on, because that demeans what he's trying to do, establishing a team and building people to work around him and be inspired by him. So I kind of let him kind of do his thing, and then I'll come in and step in and eat stuff or try some things. We'll talk about dishes, and then we'll go from there.
It's definitely like I work with a really great staff now, so it's there's I have a lot of creativity in the kitchen, just among staff members. So it's like we're always kind of talking about food, and I try to let my guys have a little bit of input in what goes on, because I feel like that allowing a cook to have a little bit of what they feel is ownership over something makes them want to make that dish the best that it possibly can be every single time, because they feel like it's theirs. And so it's I'll give them general direction, and a lot of times that general direction is coming from Matt and I having had a conversation where I tell him this is what I want to do, and he gives me input and something like that. And sometimes you taste something 100 times and it becomes monotonous almost, to where to have somebody like him come in and say, well, this needs more acid, and it's when you I don't want to say you become bored of something, but when you've tasted it so many times, there's occasions where things will start to slip, and it's like the onion dip. I've eaten the onion dip here I don't even know how many times, so it's like now every time I taste it I'm just like immediately just add more acid to it. So it's just kind of like you get to that point.
Perspective sometimes too, right?
Yeah. So it's, and
it's something or taste it too many times.
It's interesting. It's like over at FT, it's all about changing things constantly, and here it's a little less of that, but we're always, saying, okay, well, I made this chimichurri today. How do I make it better tomorrow? How do I make it better the next day? How do I, so it's, even though it's essentially the same recipe, it's kind of always that, like, maybe I should add a little more salt, maybe it needs a little more acid, maybe a different acid, maybe it needs lemon zest, so we're constantly kind of tweaking things around here, and so that's how we get our satisfaction of change is by figuring out how to make something better. And now that we'll start tweaking some things a little more and changing some things a little bit, so it's fun.
What's the dish on the menu that you're most excited about?
Oh man,
that you love the best?
It's probably a tie between the Hoppin' John and the barbecue shrimp. I don't know what it is about those dishes. I guess it's like their simplicity. For me, it's it's I find extreme beauty in simplicity. And
those heads-on shrimp, the flavor is just fantastic.
We get really gorgeous shrimp.
We went back and forth on that when we first opened, because I even posed the debate question to my mom and asking people. I was just like, I think people should peel their own shrimp, and my mom's like, I'll never order it. And I was just like, okay, so we're gonna tediously peel all of them, but leave the heads intact.
But was that an issue that people would be weirded out by seeing the head?
Not surprisingly, no.
But it's I mean, that's the discussion. It's the same discussion we've had. We've gone back and forth on the trout. It's like, should we have it filleted? Should it be? I mean, it's even in the review you said it's kind of cumbersome to eat, or unless you know how to French. Which that was another thing. I was like, we're gonna French this table side, and they're just like, well, it's a casual restaurant.
Right,
it's not,
right.
So it's like, it was really challenging for me to kind of have to, not necessarily like dumb down. I guess we have to dumb. The level of service is dumbed down slightly from what FT is. I mean, if I had the same expectations of every step of service with the servers here, like it'd be impossible to staff this place. They wouldn't be. They just
It's more casual, I guess.
yeah. So
And so, what about what dish of Cody's are you most proud of on this menu?
I already know the answer to this question.
Yeah, you do.
I'm trying to think.
If I had to guess, it'd probably be the okonomiyaki.
I was pretty impressed when we first ate it, and then we went through when we were first R&Ding stuff, and then it kind of, we made many tweaks to it to try to get the pancake batter mixed with the Johnny cake batter just right, to where you still have it rise and soft, but I wanted the density of like a hoe cake, like my mom used to make for me.
Yeah.
So it's like. So it's gone through a lot of tweaks, and that's a dish that like either people like or they don't like, because it's different, They're just like, what are these little bonito things moving around?
Yeah, my
What's
editor
going on?
wanted to know, because I said that they wave around almost like they're alive, and he said, what do you mean by that? And well, they really look
it's from
like
the
that.
heat,
It's
so
it's from the heat.
yeah, the
'cause
heat
it's so
makes them.
thin and-
Yeah, the heat makes them do that.
So this is shaved bonito that's garnished on top. Then.
Yeah, I mean, but for me, a lot of things are, it's. Like he was saying, FT is all about like constant change, and we're always kind of pushing like the envelope. It's kind of like making those cured persimmons. I've never done that before. It's like, we'll just take on these crazy projects where it's like we're gonna make 53 gallons of hot sauce and barrel age it, and then like I'm gonna give it to this guy, and it's just we're always doing stuff like that. Here it's like, it's kind of like one of my favorite places to go eat is Houston's. I get the prime rib sandwich and I get the spinach artichoke dip every time. I have since I was like 12 years old.
Wow.
So
And
as much as I like changing,
is it because it's consistent?
it's consistent. But it's like, so I wanted some things to stay on the menu. Like, it's like that onion dip's never gonna go away. That's one of my favorite dishes on the menu. I love onion dip. As a kid, I would make onion dip and just eat like a whole bag of Ruffles and just, but then we had our tweaks to it where we take it and we throw it in embers and let it pretty much just burn completely. And that's where you just get a more depth of flavor. So I definitely want some things to stay on the menu, but I also want him to not get bored. I don't want the cooks to get bored. I don't want things to become stagnant, because if you, like he was saying, you serve the same thing over and over and over again. Usually it's hard to keep it consistent. So, so I want to blend between both of those, kind of some change and some similarities. So.
And you recently started lunch and brunch service.
Yeah. So that's been interesting. I've never done
say,
like a lunch or brunch thing, so it's like it's a new thing for me to just
Yeah.
wrap my head around. It's like, how do you market lunch to a certain crowd? And we're in Deep Ellum. It's just all those. There's always things that we're constantly looking at.
The lunch thing was really interesting, because I wanted people to have a very similar experience at lunch that they have at dinner. I mean, there's a lot of things that the hot catfish and the shrimp and the the onion dip and the crab dip, like those are things that I think now people almost expect to get when they come in during lunch. So and plus I didn't, it's like Dallas has a lot of travelers, so I wanted people that had maybe read something that were from out of town but couldn't come in for dinner, that came in for lunch, to have a lot of the similar experiences that they would have during dinner, so that they could get that, the Filament experience. And so but we definitely tweak some things. There's some things that I'm able to do at lunch that I don't think I would be able to do at dinner, just because of volume, and so lunch is a little more interesting. It's there's some stuff on the menu that it's a little more detailed, and some things that I'm a little bit, it's like we have the yakame on the lunch menu, which is probably my favorite. That might actually be my favorite thing on any of the menus, just because it's no, the yakame. So the yakame is it's kind of our version of ramen. It's it's very classically New Orleans. I get a lot of influence from New Orleans, so but at the end of the day, it's just smoked beef and noodles and broth and an egg. It's kind of like there's nothing wrong with any of those things. So it's lunch is fun. Brunch is definitely interesting.
Yeah, 'cause
So-
it was our first brunch, and I walked in.
Nice.
And I was like, "How's it going?" He's like, "We don't know what we're doing right now." Like, they're trying to like cook eggs, and a long time ago, I was a short order cook. I worked the egg station at a Jewish deli in Arizona, and I was like, "Yeah, it's a totally different animal."
Well, it's just different. It's like the dinner. Experience is that kind of like everything comes out to the table as it's ready. It's not this, everything goes at once. And brunch is very much that. So it's the polar opposite of what we do at dinner. It's, everybody wants their food at the same time. It all has to go out at once. It's all, and it's all order fire. So it's definitely a different experience. So all my cooks are kind of, and plus when you get, your ass kicked on Saturday night, it's kind of like all my cooks are walking in Sunday morning just going like, I hate you right now. Don't talk to me, leave me alone. But then I've got a guy back there. It's like I jokingly call him like the Rain Man of eggs, because he's just like, dude's like, I've never worked an egg station before, and he's brilliant. It's like he's putting up like French scrambled eggs. I'm going,
Where did
Yeah,
that
this
come
come
originally
from?
I wanted a French, like a classic French omelet on the dinner menu. And then one day when we were doing our R&D test, because I can make a perfect one. I mean, it's like completely flawless. But then I tried to make 4 of them. I was like, yeah, this could be really bad.
It's not gonna work.
That's wrong.
So, because I think I even messed up one of them trying to do 4 at the same time. I was like,
This is not gonna work.
This is gonna, if I'm messing this, we're gonna go down in flames. So
Well,
yeah.
Cody Sharp and Matt McCallister, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thanks for taking the time to chat.
Yeah, thank you.